Welcome to today's podcast, season 2 of The Power of Mama's Voices. And today I'm joined by Felicia Watts. And thank you for joining us for starters today before we even get going in questions. But just appreciate your time and your bravery for coming on and talking about your own experiences.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right. Well, I've got my fan blowing because it's when I'm recording this, I'm in Texas and it's August. So
Oh,
I'm just
yes.
going to be real. It's hot. I'm hot.
Okay. We're recording
But
from Chicago.
wanted
It's hot
to
here.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. It is when we get started on these things, like I like to think of what it is if someone were to only listen to the first 5 minutes of this podcast, not
Okay.
listen to the whole thing, just the first 5 minutes. What is something you want them to take away and hear from you today?
Oh, yes. Definitely, I would say Black mothers, their stories matter. And I'm not excluding any other. I'm just saying, like, we need more spaces where Black women, Black mothers are sharing their stories and be brave. And you're not alone. That's what I would take away. That's why I'm here.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Excellent. I just got back a few weeks ago from Black Maternal Mental Health Summit in Houston, which was also
Mhm.
hot.
Okay.
But it was fantastic. And it's always a wonderful event. It's our third year that we've gone to it and just
Yes.
really, really enjoy getting to talk to people
I need
there.
to go. I need to figure it out, make it happen.
You do.
Okay. I'm gonna make
It
sure I
is
go.
excellent.
So,
So, going through like, we'll talk about your pregnancy journey, but talking
mhm,
about like your advocacy journey
okay.
first,
Okay.
where have you gone? Like, what's that journey look like for you to get here today?
Okay, thank you for asking that. Today is August 11th. I know it's going to be season two, but it is also hip hop's birthday. And I am an avid lover of hip hop, right? So I used to make this joke. I'm in Chicago. This is my hometown. And I moved from Chicago to Maryland to New York on my job. So I used to tell people when I introduced myself, my name is Felicia, and I was mostly proud of being a mom. So I'm a mom of three, but I always say I'm a hip hop mom because I have my babies every 10 years, like they drop an album. So that was like always my running joke. So that just shows you how far I've come. And when I say every 10 years, I'm saying that my first birth mother story came at age 21. And then the latest one, the recent one, was at 41. So that was 10 years ago. And I must say that throughout that time, it has been a learning process. And it was like kind of things like I didn't know why I was supposed to know type of thing. Like, especially at 21. I didn't know, like, for instance, at 21, I was just crawling to 20. I was pregnant at 20, but I was afraid of the stigma of being pregnant at an early age because in my community, that was always kind of frowned upon. It's like, oh, mess up your life, girl. Now you're a statistic, that type of thing. So I was like, oh my God, so let me make sure I make it to 21. Oh, great. I had a baby in June and I just turned 21 in March. It was kind of like that thing. So I'm running with the stigma of being a young mom. And actually, it wasn't just me in my mind, it was being projected onto me. So that was that one piece. And not knowing, like, when I was going through labor and to go to the hospital because my the water bag leaked. It was leaking. But I said, oh, I'm supposed to go to the hospital now because it's only leaking. They said when it breaks, like I'm like, okay, let me stay home for 2 days because it's only leaking and I need to wait till it breaks. So it was like those things, like my 21-year-old mind. And so from that period and then going to the next chapter of my life as a mom, now I'm 30. And now I'm patting myself on the back because now I'm considered like, oh, now I have a job, I have a career, I went to college. So now I can say that I'm having a baby, right? But then at that moment at 30, you consider, oh, advanced maternal age. So now I'm like, I got to, now wait, first of all, they ask you, why you waiting so long? And then you're 30 years old type of thing. So now I'm in this stigma of like all the information being projected on me again. And trying to share my story. And then I was hospitalized for a week when I was pregnant with my second child. I had hypertension and I worked in the prison system. So I worked in the prison, and so it was emotionally stressful, and I'm at home, it's stressful. And so I'm like harboring this experience for my unborn child who would now she'll be 21, 22 tomorrow. So that was 22 years ago, like that. And then so now I'm moving, okay, now I'm going over here. Okay, so I know a little bit now, I know a lot more now. Now I'm 41. So imagine that, 41. I moved to New York, and everybody's like, "Oh, she's going to New York. She's so brave." But now I'm pregnant. why did she get pregnant? So now it's questionable. Like, oh, I know you're grown, but why did you wait so late to get pregnant? So now you're older.
Mm.
Now you're older. And so I had to hide from people. Like, don't tell anybody. Like, let me not tell them because they're gonna shame me. So it was kind of like going through this arc of always kind of like trying to prove like I was worthy to be a parent, and also learning and trying to parent myself. So that's kind of how the journey went. Like, so I'm saying it because I know it's hip hop birthday, and I'm like, I can't. I focus on the last one because I had cesarean. She was born premature. I never experienced that, but I also focus on every child reflected something different. But the most important message from all three births was like information, not having information, and not having the emotional support. I'm not just saying even just healthcare providers, like people around you. Each phase, it was lacking emotional support. So that's kind of like sum up if it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I've said on the previous podcast I've recorded, like I think of her in 10 years.
Hmm.
She could be having a baby. She could be having a baby sooner than that, right?
Yes.
What has changed from when she was born in care and treatment to when she could possibly like has enough changed? And I don't feel like it has. And so I'm like, what can we do in the next 8, 10, 12? I tell her she can't get married till she's 40, but like
Good luck
what's
with
gonna
that, mom.
change?
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I'm like, oh wait, no, I tell her she can't get married till she's 30. She can't get a phone till she's 40. She gets very mad about that math. Mom math is what I call it. But it's like, what's gonna change?
Yes, yes. How can we
Has
change?
enough changed in between those 10-year pregnancies
Yeah.
to, aside from just like you feeling like I'm still getting judged.
Yes.
Y'all tell me what's a good age to have a baby.
Yes. Yes. And you know what? You kind of overcompensate. Like when I had the one who's 22, when I was 30, I was so proud to be able to beat the odds. Because like I said, they say, oh, you done mess up your life. So now I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna show you. So with my first child, I went away to college. I took her to college with me. Like, we stay on the housing dorm and family housing together. That's how important I wanted to show prove. Like, count me out, I'm gonna prove you wrong. That's the type of thing I had. And
Mm.
so when I had the middle child, I kind of overcompensated because I wanted the fairy tale pregnancy where like I used to play with baby dolls and Barbie, had Ken and everything. And I was like, oh, I'm supposed to have these feelings. So I started eating a lot because I felt like, oh, that's what pregnant women do. They eat a lot, It's not paying attention to my body or what I really wanted, but just like, oh, let me overindulge because, oh man, because I'm pregnant and I deserve this, and everybody's supposed to be eyeing on me. And it didn't happen that way at all. At all. I ended up, like I said, having hypertension, in a stressful environment, staying in the hospital for a week. And it was like the only one time that somebody like kind of like snapped me out was when my provider, her name was Dr. Christina Bonner. I still remember her name. At all the pregnancies, I remember this one doctor's name, and she went to Georgetown. I remember that, and she told me, because I was a little bit stubborn about, I didn't take it seriously how serious it was about my health and delivery. And she said, she like forced me to, you better come or you're gonna die. She just basically said that, or you're gonna die. Like she was trying to schedule me to have a C-section. And I was like, oh no, I'm not. No, she's like, if you don't do this, you're gonna die. That's what she told me. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is real. So that's the only time that something stood out to me. Like, wait a minute, this is not just me playing a mom, playing fairy tale. It's like this is a real deal. But no one's told me that. I'm just kind of surrounded, and I kind of got support, but not the emotional support that I needed. So I feel like the continuation of conversation about maternal health and the birth stories we need more in those spaces. It can't be like, oh, she told her story and that's it. We cover that basis. No, we need to keep pouring those stories in. So now, like you said, when your baby is 10 years, 20 years from now, or 10 years from now, that it's like she has more padding to land on. Like, oh, I heard these stories and this is what happened here. So I think it's like the stories, it's like the shame, it's like a thing of shame and pride, and also it's like a trust. Like I don't trust to tell my story because you ain't gonna listen to it or you're gonna judge me.
Mm.
So it's kind of like one of those
Mm.
things. Yes.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. So, like thinking back, I'm interested in like your first pregnancy. You were in college, and not just like pregnancy, but also postpartum raising, a little one while going to school.
Oh, correction. The
Um,
first one, I wasn't. Oh, yeah. When I was, she was. I was when I was pregnant. I wasn't in college. It was
okay.
after having her, I decided to take that route because I wanted to defeat the odds. Like, no, I am not a statistic. That type of thing. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, gotcha.
Hmm.
So what kind of like support did you get while you're in school
Hmm.
with the child? Because that's a lot to take
Yes.
on.
Yes. Well, I'm gonna tell you that. So I was raised by my grandmother. My mother
Mhm.
also had me at the same age that I had my daughter, and so when I was coming to her, my grandmother just embraced. That's what grandmothers did. We in our community we just embrace and help raise the kids. So my mother, she worked at the post office while I am living with my grandmother. Even my mother moved out the house. I stayed with my grandmother my whole life, right? So that was the push, right? And so I'm used to my grandmother helping, like my aunt also have, we had lived extended family home. So we all of us were in the grandma's house. So this time I wanted to make it different where I'm not depending on grandma because my grandma's tired now. She's gonna help raise other kids. I just want to give her, I just want to like stop that. Let me be there. And then having that, not have my mother around all the time. I didn't want that for my child. Like I knew what it felt like to not like really be there with your mom, but grandma's my mom. She's my mom. So I wanted my daughter with me at all costs. And I remember when I was in college, the good thing about the college is that I did my research. I was very resourceful if I really wanted somebody doing for it. So I chose this school, Illinois State. It's not far, it wasn't far from home. It was like an hour and a half away from Chicago. And so I was like, okay, so if anything happened, I could just get back home quickly or up to Chicago. Okay, so then they also had family housing. That was another check. I was like, okay, family housing right there. I can go to school and stay there. And then the other thing was they focused on education. They had a teachers program, so they had daycare on site. So the daycare was like my support. That was my support. And it was times where if my daughter wasn't feeling well, that I would have to leave it in the dorm room. Like, don't touch anything, that type of. It was like, that's how we had to survive, right? I didn't have like other parents around at that time until a little bit later on. So I remember my aunt suggested, she said, why don't you let her stay with grandma? Like, like here we go again. You want me to, okay, now I can focus on school, but I gotta let my daughter go back to Chicago with grandma. And I was like, no, we're not doing that again. Like my mother did that. I'm not doing that again. So my support was basically the school campus having daycare, and every now and then come home weekly. And then I started finding like maybe classmates that were, they weren't even traditional classmates. They were older and they became my family type of thing away from home. So that was the support right there. Just having like going outside of the family environment and just kind of reaching for. But I had to like look for it. It wasn't like offered to me. I had to look for it. Otherwise, I would have been counted out. And I remember when I finally graduated, my daughter was in kindergarten and we came back to Chicago. And I remember my neighbors said that like they were so proud of me because I had a house now. I mean, I really leveled up in that moment, right? And it was like, oh, you came from nothing. And look at you now. I'm like, I didn't come from nothing. Like my grandmother raised me. I didn't come from love. I just had a baby. Like it was like imagine that like you have a baby a little bit younger, and now you came from nothing. Like so that was my reason why I had to prove myself like in the support, like okay, if you don't want to help me, I'm gonna help myself. And I had to wow, my
Mhm.
wow, she did that. So that was kind of like the support. My grandma was always there, but she was aging, and I didn't want to put that burden on her again. So I had to figure it out. Yes, if I'm
I love that your school offered those things and
yes,
that like it's not something I would think about like looking for
mm-hmm.
and working like with different schools around in the area too. Like it's just not it makes now I'm like now I'm interested. Like what do they
Yes,
offer? Do they offer anything like that? Because you want more people to get their education. Like how are the
yes,
barriers being removed? How can you help make it
it's,
more accessible and those kind of things? So man, I love that they were really able to support you to getting, your degree and getting through school with your daughter and not
yes,
and being able to do what you wanted to do, that vision of like, I'm doing this for us,
yes,
you know.
yes. It was a great
I
experience.
I love that. So it was Illinois State?
Yes, and you know what? When
Okay.
I looked, I tried to follow up with it later on to see if they still had the family housing program, and they said that they didn't. I was so sad. Like, do you know how many? Because it was other moms like me, black women. They was single moms, and they was there, and they some, I don't know, one lady, she went on to, she has a PhD. Her daughter now that I watched her when she's a baby is a college graduate. Like, it's my daughter's a college graduate. It's like they saw that. I just wanted to, I always wanted the college experience, like away from college. And I was like, oh man, so now I can't do this because I have a baby. And I was like, oh wait a minute, what if a school have family? I don't even know where it came from. The idea, like I didn't think of that
Mhm.
either. And I just started looking, but it's not very, not, it's not a lot. It's not a lot on
Yeah,
campus. They should consider that for most colleges. Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So then, like your second and third pregnancy
Mm-hmm.
were, different place in your life
Yeah.
at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
How did support change for you in those two pregnancies as well? Like what
Okay.
helped?
The second pregnancy, well, you know how you was talking about how things haven't changed. I feel like it hasn't changed as much because now I'm not in college. I'm in my home, my foundation. So, and I live in the suburbs, and my family lives in the city. And the only thing I can say that stands out is that maternity leave. After I gave birth, it was only 3 months, and then I think when you have a C-section, is a little bit longer, whatever it was. But I didn't have a child care, and my grandmother, who I told you I was trying to avoid putting burden on her. It was funny because I was looking for childcare in her neighborhood. Because even though I'm pregnant, I had to tap in with the family. I had friends that were around. Like when I went to the hospital for the week when I was hospitalized, I had a friend come visit. Like those things mattered to me because I still have my firstborn. So they helped with the firstborn because they don't talk about that enough. Like, okay, I'm in the hospital with this baby, but what about the other child at home? So that's always point that out. Like, who's going to watch that child? So they supported me with my firstborn. But again, after going through that again, I had to fall back on grandma to watch this second baby. It worked out. I didn't really ask her. This time I was like looking for childcare. And no one seemed to fit the bill. And my grandma said she had just overcame having a radical mastectomy, and she had just retired. She had to retire because of breast cancer, right? And I was like, I cannot let my grandmother watch this baby. And she just overcame breast cancer, right? And I'm sitting in her room like, oh man, I can't find her. Because the one babysitter I was looking for around the corner from grandma's house, I went to her house. She had a whole bar set up. Like, I'm like, it was funny because it wasn't that because she had a bar set up. It was like, I think she party all the time. So I'm like, maybe I'll wait. So I'm telling grandma about that. She was like, I'll keep her. I was like, you will? And it was like so much weight lifted. Because I'm thinking my grandma, she's 77, 78, and now she has a little baby. But my daughter was kind of like a blessing to like it helped my grandmother recover and heal and everything. So the support was like having people show up for me for my youngest, my firstborn, and when I was in the hospital, I went through some stuff. Matter of fact, when I gave birth, I was at Northwestern Hospital. No, I was at the second, yeah, Northwestern Hospital, and everybody was in the room. Everybody, it was you know how it's a vulnerable moment. Everybody, all my friends was in the room with me, and that was very supportive. Like to me, like it didn't matter if I couldn't really talk to them or not, but they was there. So I do remember that in that moment because it was a kind of like a little bit of a difficult delivery. I was trying to deliver first, and then I couldn't do it. And it's like, no, let's just have a C-section. So that support stood out throughout the whole time, having community and sisterhood. Yeah,
I was
and
like,
then
did your first one get recruited for the third one?
oh my goodness, yes. So the first one, she was like, okay, so I was again a single mom. The first one was very helpful with my second daughter. And I know they also the firstborn because I was the firstborn, so I know I helped with my sister. You understand?
Right.
So I understand. And I didn't want to like put that burden on her, but I needed the help. So she was a big part of support of helping me my second daughter, right? Especially with like childcare or getting it right. It was just a lot, right? And then when I had my third child, my firstborn was on her own. She had went to school and she was in another state. And now the middle child is like kind of taking the role. But this time I'm very mindful not to put too much on her because of the firstborn. I said, no, I'm not gonna do too
Mhm.
much of that. This one was kind of hard, this last child, because I lived in New York and I had no family in New York. So going through this pregnancy felt very lonely, very lonely.
Mhm.
I tried to find a doula because I knew now I'm more educated about childbirth and what I need and support. And it's hard to find support. First of all, it's hard to ask for support. Like most of the time, you don't know what to ask of even of your family. Like my mom was in Chicago, I'm in New York. Because I just picked up the phone and say, Mom, I really, really, really need you here. I feel lonely. I need some support. I need that. But it wasn't that. It was like, oh, my mom has work to do and she has my sister, and I didn't want to like bother anyone, so it was kind of like a lonely journey in New York having this child, especially when she was born in NICU, like premature. And it's like I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital for an entire month before delivery. So that was like, so now I have the middle child. She's coming to visit me. She's 11 years old on the bus in New York, coming to visit me in the hospital by herself. It was a stressful time. That was the most stressful time as far as support. Like, and I'm like, now imagine you. I'm already developed, and I've been a mother twice. I have an education. I worked for a long time, and I'm at this point now where I'm starting over, like without the support. Like that was 20 years ago, from 21 to 41. It hasn't changed. Like, what did I'm educated. I think I'm a good person that have the support. Like, what's going on here? So that's how I feel like how you mentioned said like it hasn't changed yet. We still have a lot to go. We have a long way to go. That's why like Mama's Voices stories, like the collective, it's like, okay, being part of the collective, but then you also have to tell your own personal story, even if it counts like a little when you're ready, if it hurts a little bit, because this is not something I want to talk about like openly to everyone, but I know it's necessary. I know it's necessary. Yes.
It's, yeah, I'm just hopeful that things will really start to change, or we'll
Yeah.
really start to see progress. I can see progress being made in certain areas like hospitals and states and systems, like wanting to listen to patients. And even in the 7 years almost since Mama's Voices has been around, it's really changed, where it became like, oh no, 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 like that's too risky, to like to being calling us just immediately like, hey, we know y'all are coming, right?
Right.
Just assuming we're going to be there. And
Hmm.
so that part, I see how things have been changing and progressing. It takes time, but I wonder with like standards of care and how patients are treated. I'm really hoping that we start making some differences there, because like talking about like trauma informed care, it's become this, it's reminding me of what like working with patients was 6 years
Hmm.
ago.
Okay.
Everybody knew they needed to do it, but they were terrified of doing it. They were
Yes.
scared out of their pants to do it, afraid they were going to re-traumatize people and do it the wrong way. And I think it's the same thing with trauma informed care. And now we're getting to the point where like it's not optional. You
Exactly.
have to start paying attention to how people are being treated. And so, and the system doesn't help with that at all. The system is designed and created for volume and pushing
Yes.
patients through so they can make the money and get the numbers that they need. And in the meantime, the experience and what happens to the patients along the way is hit and miss.
Hit and miss, yes. Exactly. And you're right, it's like we lost, especially now, social media now and AI, all kind of stuff. Like, where is the emotional intelligence? Like, we have so many educated, these people are who providers who've gone to school for a long time, and then some, not all of them, but sometimes they're missing the just the emotional IQ, like the compassion. It's not, it doesn't require like studies. It doesn't require, it's like, how would you feel if it were you? How would you feel if it was your mom or if it was your daughter, if it was your auntie or whatever? How would you feel? That's all we asking. Like, especially as a black woman, like if I am getting dramatic, what am I saying? Like, why am I dramatic? Because that's the word. It's like a gaslight on society puts on black women when you try to speak up. Now you feel like, oh, don't speak up too much because you could be passionate, but they don't see it as passionate. They project it as something like you angry. You're an angry black woman. So it's like, can I have a little space to like be vulnerable? And so now I don't trust to say anything. So now you're doing a good job. Now you muting me because I don't want to tell my story. I don't want to share. I don't want to. I'll come to visit them to get it done. Don't ask me how I'm doing. But it would be nice if a provider would actually ask you how are you doing, what's going on with you, what's like. I went to a retreat, and one of the questions this lady asked me, she said, "What's present for you right now?" And I couldn't believe she asked me that because I was stunned. I'm like, wow, what's present? Nobody's really ask me what's present for me right now. Oh man, I got so much going on. What's present for me? And it would be nice. Like I know that we cannot, like you said, have time. They have to get the numbers up. But like if they take a moment and pause and say, what is present for you right now? You know what? I know we're here for the baby, but the baby, the baby is part of you. It's your environment. You bring the baby to the world. So you know what? I lost my job. I'm about to get evicted. I don't have the resources to get to this doctor's appointment. Whatever it is, like just really genuine asking and being compassionate about that. That's what I would like to
Mhm.
see more of that, especially for Black women, especially.
Mhm. I'd say we're passionate people. Sometimes, we
Yes,
just get a little loud.
yes,
We're passionate people,
yeah,
okay?
yeah,
It's
exactly.
tough. So I'm like, I'm not yelling at you. I'm
It's
on my
like, yeah,
soapbox and I really have deep feeling about something.
yeah, especially when survival is at risk. Like, say if you're in the movie and somebody is chasing you, run, girl, run. You're going, yeah, run, run. So it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to ring the alarm right now because this is a survival thing. I'm growing something special, and I need some help. So I'm raising the flag of like, help me type of thing. So it's kind of like we want to be heard. Like I like that what Mama's Voice is doing. It's like it's helping us to drop seeds, plant the seeds. And so when your baby grows up, it's like it's harvesting. I might not see, it's something like we just keep planting and keep planting the seeds and telling
Hmm.
stories and sharing our voice. That's why I really think like we need more of this, more of this.
Hmm.
I have a sister, she has a story to tell, and she's not comfortable to tell her story because of she feels like some stigma or shame. And I'm like, wow, that's unfortunate because I know somebody would like to hear your story. And for her to share it, it takes a lot out of her. And she done it one time, and I don't think she's gonna revisit for a long time. So it's kind of like making people feel comfortable. Like I'm not crazy. This is what's going on, and please hear me. So when we start allowing more platforms like Mama's Voices to help us plant. Because that's what Mama's Voices does. It's like an architect. They like the architects of stories, birth stories. So it's like, oh, you got birth story. We're gonna go to the drawing board. We're gonna build, and we're gonna have a blueprint. Here, take your blueprint and build something out there with it and help people so they can live in these stories and they can. And now we have safer births. Now we have more compassionate providers type of thing. Yeah.
I love that. I talk a lot about like planting seeds
Mm-hmm.
and how, saying earlier, like I see some progress in areas. It's because we planted seeds and we've
Yes.
watered them and we planted seeds. Like we keep showing up into the places. They keep seeing our face. They keep seeing our name.
Yes.
I was surprised this summer when I went somewhere and like I've never heard Mama's Voices. And I'm like, what rock have you been living under? Because I am at all these meetings.
Mm.
So, it's like, come here, let's educate you. And so, how
Yes.
can we continue to do so with the people lived experience that we represent, and then also the clinical teams in the states that are working on those projects, like who just keep showing up and keep doing the good work,
Yes.
and they're seeing the value of it and they're seeing how it's making an impact. So, I
Yes.
love that encouragement.
Yes.
If you were to say, if there's a moment, if you can think of one, if there was one, where you felt particularly seen or heard, what makes that like stand out to you?
Well, the one time with the provider, Dr. Bonner, that I felt she saw me, well, I didn't even see myself. And then, fortunately, at the birth, doing like meeting platforms like Mama's Voices. And once you have a baby and you go through that trauma, you like, okay, I got through that. Okay, let's on to the next thing. And just I didn't even know that I was supposed to share or I needed to tell. I know people go through some things too, but I'm like, Mama's Voices kind of pointed out like, okay, here's how. Let's help you tell your story. We can't tell it for you. Let's help you tell your story. And that's the only time I really felt seen. I'm not even going to at all that. From 21, 41, and then now here I am telling the story about the past births I had, because I was given like confidence. I think that's another thing, they gave you confidence to tell your story. And I'm like, but we all have something special, especially if you gave birth. I know we have stories like, oh, you went through the same thing. Oh, you went through the same. And that's the only time, one of the most important times that I felt seen or heard. Because when I started learning to tell stories through Mama's Voices, I had the opportunity to speak to providers. I'm like, oh man, this is the one. Like, this is gonna change the world. I didn't even create a maternal wish list. So like, from my experience, like what we should have for like what which doctors would consider providers. So that is the time that stands out to me right now, where I felt seen and heard. And that was just recently last year. So I'm thankful for that. That's why I'm here now. So I know so it can keep going.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
That's great to hear because we sometimes we train these people up and it's like the little baby chicks, they let them
Yeah,
out of the nest and it's
yes.
like let them
Go fly.
fly. So
Yeah, yeah.
we would talk about that
Go fly
recently
in
about
nest.
like teaching them to fish, all right, instead of
Yes.
doing the fishing for you. And so
Mhm.
we know what that looks like
Mhm.
as well. So I love to hear that. That's fantastic that you found your voice through this and it made you feel really heard through
Yes.
some of the projects we've worked with you on. And
Yeah.
probably I'm assuming because my experience has been when we go and speak somewhere and then other people that are in the audience, they start contacting you and they want you to come and do it. And then it just kind of grows. We're like have this ripple effect. And you
You
don't
know
even
what's
realize sometimes.
so when I did this presentation or told my story, it was online. It was part of a continuing education thing for the providers. So I was glad of that. So I used to work in the healthcare field, and one of the things that stood out to me is that one of the people that were there was part of the organization I used to be part of when I retired from, and they wanted to hear more of my story. And they asked for because I forgot, I got an email said, "Oh, they wanted to see your wish list or the slide that you was on." I said, "Really?" Because it was funny because at the time when I was working throughout my career, I didn't feel heard, but because we were advocates for the underserved population. Now imagine you are an advocate for the underserved population, but you are also part of the underserved population, but you got to put the underserved population first, and then you just like, oh, sweet mind stuff because I this is my job, and then now I'm on the other side being heard. So that was like a full circle moment for me to see that, like, okay, maybe this will help someone else, because I went through it the whole time I was working. Like as a parent, I was like, oh wow, like they don't understand, like, but we work with these people, like we do this, but but I'm different because I'm here, and I probably I'm good. I'm solidified. I don't have to worry about the traumas and stuff. But I'm going through the traumas showing up to work. I'm going through the heavy having anemia because after my last child, she was born premature, and then she was anemic, and then they was like, oh mom, take care of her, give her this stuff. So I give her the stuff for her anemia, bring her back. Good job, mom. She's great. But they didn't tell me that I was chronic anemia. So I'm going to work and I'm wondering what's wrong with me. But I'm like, okay, I did my job for my baby, but you didn't tell me that I was chronic anemia. Later on, I'm getting five, like a blood transfusion I never had in my life. Like this was wrong. I thought it was just I'm getting older. I mean, no, I'm really chronic anemia, and you didn't express that to me. You just focus on the baby and not the mom and the baby, and you didn't follow, so those type of things. But I'm at work. I might miss days off because something's wrong and I don't know what's wrong. I'm like, oh, I'm just a heavy bleeder. Oh, I'm just, and I'm like, I'm going through it. And not to mention that I wasn't even told. I couldn't, to this day, I'm trying to understand, like, why was not told. Even when she was premature, I found out that I have a history of fibroids, and the fibroid had ruptured the membrane, which is why I went into premature labor. I didn't find that out till after we went through everything, just after the fact. I'm like, why did they tell me that? Like, then maybe I would have been like, maybe do light duty or be mindful, like don't do too much. It was like I didn't know these things, and I think that could have maybe prevented it. I'm thinking because I was always on the go, pregnant. So that information still stays with me. Like, okay, I'm glad the baby is good, but like to take the moms too. Like follow up with the moms. Like really follow up. Like see the moms. See the moms. So yeah, it's
What was the
definitely
question again? What's present for you right now?
what's pressed for me
Because that
right
was
now.
great.
Yeah.
That was a great question. What's present for you right
What's
now?
present for you right now? Exactly. That was a
Oh,
thank
I
you
love
to
that.
Anita. She was one that I had to. You talk about support. So you kind of like find supportive platforms. So like Mama's Voices is a great support system for me. Great because I'm able to like it's like almost like therapy, mental therapy, like to share this because you have an audience on social media, but all the audience is not really, they don't care. Everybody's not a parent. They don't care about that stuff. So this is like a unique group that focuses on what's very important to moms like us. So And then so when I found this other retreat I was going to, a group is called Goddess Wisdom Council. Then I found another group of women, and I'm like, wait a minute, because these women are sharing motherhood stories, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like it was like a lot of us are living in like sleep-free in pain, and these women look beautiful and they're successful and all this stuff going. I'm like, oh my God, you too. So that's what I learned, like to ask that question among them, because it's like what you, it's like, you know, you think you see somebody, oh, she looks cute, oh, she's, oh, I know she ain't got no problems, and I'm in a circle with this woman, and they all have their little underlying things they're dealing with. And so that's how I learned from the God is like, oh, what's present for you at the moment? And I'm like, and then you know what we talk to? We talk to listen. We're taught not to interject like, oh, if I was you, I would do this, I would do that. No, listen. We like, okay, what's present for you? And you just listen. That's what sometimes people just want to listen. They want somebody to hear them. That's all. Just listen and let them get them out. And then if they ask you for advice or information, then you offer it. You know, so I learned that being in these settings like that with sisterhood, you know, what's present for you and listen.
Very, that's yeah, very much so. A lot of people don't listen this day and age, or they're listening and they're listening with the thoughts running through their head of like how they, what their response is going to be.
Yes.
So that, so instead of truly being present and listening to what you're saying.
Yes. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what providers did that? Like, I know they got to think about the next patient and putting this lab in all that. Now, how could we ask them to actually listen? And they have like, oh, let me get 3 patients in within the hour. You know, so are they actually listening to us? No, they can't do it. So it's like figuring out these systems, this ecosystem to allow people to be heard and to like somebody to listen back and forth.
Mm-hmm. So what is it that made you choose to share your story with Mama's Voices? I feel like there are other platforms out there you could just keep doing, like on social media and things like that, but like why Mama's Voices?
Oh wow! Because Mama's okay, so it just fell. It just like a I don't even know how I don't even know how I landed here. I really don't know. I know it's the thing they say, the thing you're seeking is seeking you type of thing. And so
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how I landed in this space. But what I know is that however I landed with Mama's Voices, they kind of like picked me up, and like, I'm just doing this metaphorically. But that's how I feel. Oh, you know what? We're gonna teach you. We're gonna teach you how to share your story, so you're gonna help others. Nobody's doing that. Like training, it's like training gives people confidence. You know, I know people can go on the whim and just, oh, yeah, I can say that, I can do that, I can speak. But really, training and preparing people helps them have confidence to share. They might not want to share everything, and they trained to like, you know what, like you said, what do you want to talk about? You know, I'm like, okay, wow, you gave me free range. You know, I'm gonna talk about everything. You know, but some people are like, oh, not this part hurts. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that. But Mama's Voice is kind of like I landed there, and I tell you, I honestly don't remember how I landed with Mama's Voices. I don't remember, like I just remember landing here, and they just kind of wrapped me in their arms, and they say, "Here, tell your story. We're gonna teach you. We're gonna prepare you. We're never throw you out there. We're gonna, like you said, we're gonna chick, and you're gonna fly." And ever since then, I have been very like mindful to whenever I feel my voice needs to be heard, I'm gonna do it. When I wanted to do this, I was just fresh off of coming back from the women's retreat with the God's Wisdom Council, and they were the women I tell you were in pain. I was fresh coming back from Costa Rica, and I said on the last day, I said, let me apply. Let me see if I can do this. I didn't really want to. But I knew that it was necessary. And then I was reminded when I went in the circle of women who had motherhood stories similar to mine, losses, everything. So I was like, okay, I need to do this. So Mama's Voices is like the mama. The mama is the mama. It is the mama of voices. And that's why I
Uh,
went to so I just fell into it, and they embraced me and they taught me. And now I feel like the more I tell my story, I'm not there yet where I'm like, oh sure, I can tell this and that. I'm still, but I feel confident. And so that's why I would tell anybody about this platform. I have shared this platform, and I will continue to do so, because most time people don't listen when you tell them about the platform, and they like, what you get that? I'm like, I told you, Mama's Voices. So it's kind of like, let me just keep telling the story, and then they'll pick up for anyone that needs help. So we have safer births, and then we are not statistics. We are survivors, and we're thriving, type of thing.
mhm.
Yes. Is that too much? I just go on and on.
No, you're great. I'm like, we're gonna wrap up. I'll ask you one last question.
Okay.
So, if somebody who is just starting or they're
Mhm.
considering starting with Mama's Voices, sharing their story, and they're scared,
Oh,
what piece of advice would you give to them?
I would tell them you're not alone and do it afraid because sharing your voice will impact future generations. And this, I'm not exaggerating. It will impact the kids you have or the kids or whatever it takes. If you don't see the growth now, it will eventually harvest. And it's important to have more stories, mothers' voices in these spaces. I would tell them just do it afraid. Don't second guess it. We one thing about mothers, we have a deep knowing and intuition that's the thing that we have been denied in our childbirth. Like, oh, I know this is what I'm feeling, but the doctor said no, it's not it. But we know that we know that we know. So when you have that deep intuition feeling, don't doubt it. Go for it and tell it afraid. It will open something up. It will open something up within you, and then also it will also help bless others and plant the seeds for our future moms to be, and the babies and the babies and all of that. So I would tell them do it afraid.
Do it afraid. All
Yes,
right.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Felicia, for joining us today on this new episode of Power Mama's Voices podcast. And I'm glad we got a chance to talk and for me to learn more about your story and all the great things that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for having me in Mama's Voices. It's my pleasure, and I hope to be in the space again. Thank you. And to all the mothers out
Thank,
there listening, do it afraid. Thank
thank
you.
you.